Hi everyone, my name is Allie and welcome to my channel, and today we are going to be doing my June wrap up, and it is currently July 4th, so if you hear any sort of banging in the background or my dog's barking, that's the reason why. I did want to do this a couple of days ago, but we have been a little bit busy trying to get things ready because we're going to go to Palm Springs tomorrow, so I have just been trying to get all of my laundry done, get all of my packing done, all of that kind of stuff. Did my nails, did my hair. I didn't really have too much time to put my energy into doing my June wrap up, but now I finally have a moment to sit down and talk to you all about the books that I read in June. And I kind of had a little bit, I didn't really get into a slump or anything, and it ended up being that I read 6 books in June, so it was actually pretty good for my reading month. And I actually did read some books that I really truly love, but I don't know, there was just something about this month that I felt was a little bit of a fail in a way. And I think maybe it's because I kept trying to start a bunch of queer books for Pride Month, and all of them, or at least the majority of them, ended up being like a DNF. Like, I just did not end up liking them, and I'm really bummed because I kind of expected that I would read a bunch of queer books this month and I would love all of them and it'd be so great and it'd be great Pride Month. But then I just ended up picking up queer book after queer book after queer book that I was not enjoying at all. And this year I've really tried to put my reading first, you know what I mean? I want to read books that I absolutely love, that I really connect with, that really speak to me. And if I feel 10% in that I want to DNF the book, that I don't think I'm going to finish it, I'm just going to DNF it, and that's fine. And I don't want to put that pressure on myself to finish books, and I don't want to feel that guilt that comes along with DNFing books, but I did definitely feel a lot of guilt this month. But the thing is that I read queer books all year long, so I really shouldn't be putting that pressure on myself anyway, because I'm not the type of person who just reads queer books in June and then never again for the rest of the year. I read them all year long, every single month. So it's really not that big of a deal, but I made it kind of a bigger deal than it should be in my head. The first book that I finished in the month of June was A Highlander for Hannah, and that is by Mary Warren. I read this as an ebook on Hoopla, which most of her books are on Hoopla, thankfully. Hoopla and Libby are always my saving graces throughout the entire year. And I ended up giving this book a 3 out of 5 stars. So the thing is, I really love getting to see plus size fat representation anywhere. It's so much fun. I eat it up every time. It's always so refreshing and so validating in a way. And this book was no exception, despite the fact that I didn't absolutely love this book. And in my review, I talk a lot about the fact that I felt really conflicted with how to rate this book, because I was torn between my enjoyment of the book and then also the actual execution of the writing and of the plot and everything else. Because I did really enjoy this book for what it was. I loved the love interest. I thought he was so great and so interesting and had a really great personality and was this really well-rounded character. And then I did not like the main character. I felt like the main character was really insufferable and just was constantly snapping at people for nothing. There were some moments that I felt like she was totally validated in how she was feeling, but the way that she talked to her sister, who was always 100% supportive and so sweet and so kind, I didn't understand that. And then the way that she acted towards so many other people in her life that really didn't do anything to her just felt so out of left field for me. So I didn't love the main character. I think she had her moments, and I think that she did kind of go through a good character arc. She did change by the end of the book, but I still felt really uncomfortable reading her perspective, and I did prefer the love interest as a character. And then I really hate to get into the nitty gritty of the actual technical writing stuff, because I don't want to be that type of person who's you're a good writer, you're a bad writer, you're this, you're that, you know, whatever. And am I like super qualified to be talking about the quality of someone's writing? I don't know. The writing for me in this book was a bit too simplistic and a little bit repetitive. I really wish that the writing in this book had dug a little bit deeper into these characters and had spent a little bit more time describing things and constructing interesting sentences. Because, I mean, anybody can write a sentence, anybody can write a string of words, but it takes a lot of effort and talent to be able to string words together in a way that is really engaging and interesting to a reader. But I just don't think that it was executed well enough for me to give it like a 4 or even a 5 stars. So 3 I felt like was really fair because I did really enjoy the plot and some of the characters, and I liked the story in general. I just did not love the execution of the writing. The next book that I read was Practice Makes Perfect by Sarah Adams. And I feel like I've already talked about this book so much on my channel already because I don't know, I mean, have I talked about this a lot on my, yeah, I feel like I have. Maybe it's from like my reading vlogs or whatever, but I loved this book so much. I thought it was so fun and funny and quirky and adorable, and I had just literally the best time reading this book. This is actually a sequel to the first book, When in Rome, which I want to read but have not read, and I don't know when I will be able to because I don't think that my library has that book. Which, yes, is very strange because I did read Practice Makes Perfect from my library. So I don't know why they don't have When in Rome. I don't know what's going on with that, but hopefully they will add it to their collection and I can check it out because I do want to read it. And I think it sounds really interesting because basically When in Rome is about a pop star who kind of has this sort of like Hannah Montana movie moment and ends up in a small town and meets this guy. I think he runs a bakery or something like that, and they end up hitting it off. Or no, he makes pies, right? Yeah, he makes pies. So I guess kind of like a bakery. And they end up hitting it off and romance ensues. And then the sequel, Practice Makes Perfect, which is what I read and I was really excited about this year, is about the bodyguard for the pop star, and he ends up having this little romance with the sister of the love interest from the first book. And it's set in the same small town of, I think, what is it, Rome, Kentucky, or Rome something. It's somewhere, I think, in the South. And it was just so cute. It was so cute, and I love the main character, and I talked about this a little bit in like my updates, and I think also in my review. I can't remember if I wrote a review or not, but the main character really reminded me of myself in a way. And like literally within the first couple of pages of reading this book, I clocked her as having autism. I was like, I know this. Like, she was so clearly written as autistic, but like it never really got brought up, and I don't even know if maybe like the author didn't intend for her to write her that way, but I really felt like she was autistic, which is so cool and so great, and that's why I loved her so much. But yeah, I did really relate to this main character, and she is so sweet, but she's also like that type of character who really wants to have people take her a bit more seriously and doesn't always want to be seen as like this childlike, delicate angel of a character who needs to be constantly protected and wrapped in bubble wrap. She wants to be taken seriously and she wants to be treated like an adult, and I love that. I love that for her, and I think that she goes through a really great character arc. And then I also love the love interest because, oh my gosh, he is just so sweet and so charming and so supportive, and like he just so clearly loves this main character so much. And basically they kind of get into this thing where, because she wants to be taken more seriously, especially when it comes to dating, she decides to kind of have the bodyguard give her a few pointers and like teach her how to date and how to be a good date and all of that, so she can have like practice and experience. And I loved like the backstory of the love interest. I thought he was just amazing, and just, oh, I loved it so much. It was so good. I cannot say enough good things about this book, and if you couldn't tell, I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. So I feel good because this was one of the books that I was really excited about at the beginning of the year. And if you've been following me throughout this year, you will have seen how many books that I was anticipating that I ended up hating. So it's really, really fun to get one that's like a 5-star read. The next book that I read in June was You Just Need to Lose Weight and 19 Other Myths About Fat People by Aubrey Gordon. And if you didn't know, Aubrey Gordon is one of the hosts of Maintenance Phase, which is a podcast, and it's one of my favorite podcasts of all time. If you have not listened to it, I don't know what you're doing. You need to go listen to it. It's so good. And the podcast is basically all about debunking and exploring a lot of different like health fads or health myths and stuff like that. So definitely go check it out. There are so many episodes that you can like marathon, and it'll take you a couple, well, depending on how fast you listen to these episodes, it might take you anywhere from like a week to like a month, but they're so good and they're so worth it. And also, I usually never recommend a Patreon, but their Patreon is really, really good, and they have so many good bonus episodes that if you have like $1 or a couple dollars to spare, I highly recommend it. But like I said, I read this book and I ended up giving it 5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was really, really good, and I think that it's a great primer for a lot of people who have not yet fully unpacked their anti-fat bias, or are just starting to unpack it or really want to. And I think even if you have already unpacked a lot of that anti-fat bias, I think that this book has a lot of really great messages and reminders of, like the title says, myths about fat people. It's really pretty much a straightforward title. But I loved it. I thought it was really, really well written, and this is another one of my most anticipated reads. I think, did I talk about this one in any of my videos? I can't remember, but it is one that I was really, really looking forward to, and I'm so glad that it ended up being great, because Aubrey Gordon is a absolutely fantastic writer. She just knows how to make this stuff, especially like this really heavy topic, really lighthearted and funny and approachable, and it's a great like supplement to the Maintenance Phase podcast. The fourth book that I read this month was Detransition Baby by Tori Peters, and this book I believe I gave 3 out of 5 stars as well. And this is another one of the queer books that I started to read this month and nearly DNF'd it. I was so close. There were so many moments where I was like, I could just stop reading this. I could just stop reading it. I could if I wanted to. I am kind of glad that I didn't end up DNFing it, despite the fact that there were a few moments where I was seriously considering it, because I do feel like the ending was worth it at the end. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like all of the I feel like the ending really made up for a lot of like the moments where I just was not on board with this book, but it still didn't make it great enough for me to give it 4 stars, because really I just don't think that this book knew what message it wanted to send, if that makes any sense. It really kind of flip-flopped. It never really seemed to have a clear perspective or a clear motivation, and I wanted to know where it was landing, because I feel like the closest thing that I've read to this before is My Year of Rest and Relaxation. Very similar tone, very, very similar sort of like subgenre. But I feel like My Year of Rest and Relaxation did it so much better because it knew what it wanted to be, and it did it unapologetically. I feel like this book almost made too many apologies, and I wish that it would have just committed to being unapologetic and just saying whatever the fuck it wanted to, without making qualifications, without fully stopping the narrative to like preach a little bit, you know. And I felt like there's so many moments in this book where the author was speaking through the characters, which I do not love when that happens. I don't know what the motivation was behind that choice, but to me as a reader, it feels like the author doesn't necessarily trust the reader to get it, to understand that it's a satire, to understand that it's more of a dark humor. It also kind of reminds me of Kill the Boy Band, which I also feel like does a fantastic job at being a satirical dark comedy unapologetically, without trying to quell the reader's fear of like, is this bad? Like, oh my god, are the characters bad people? Like, oh no. It's like, I can take some bad people as characters. I can do it, but you gotta trust me. I don't want to have these like apologies of like, oh no, I'm sorry, you know, through the narrative. Like, just give it to me. Just I can take it. You just gotta give it to me. But like I said, I do think that the ending really helped this book, because if it weren't for the ending, I would have probably given it a 1 or 2 stars. The second to last book that I read in the month of June was Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood, and this is her second book in this sort of like science series. God, I don't even know what the series is called, but it has something to do with like chemistry, maybe science. I loved this book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It was so cute. I feel like I'm gonna say the exact same things that I said for Practice Makes Perfect. I'm like, oh my god, it's so cute, it's so fluffy, it's so sweet, it's so adorable. But this book, I really enjoyed the dynamic between the main character and the love interest. I thought that was super interesting, and there was definitely like this sort of hate to love aspect, or enemies to lovers aspect, where it's kind of one-sided, because the female main character is like, we hate each other, you really hate me, so I kind of hate you. And then like the male main character is like, why does she hate me so much? I'm in love with her, why does she hate me? And it's really cute, and I just love them. I would die for them. They're everything. And this is actually technically the second Ali Hazelwood book that I finished. The first one that I read was actually a novella, and I did not like that one. I gave it 2 stars. I can't remember what it was called. Is it Under the Same Roof? Under One Roof? Under something. Maybe that's the one that I read. I can't remember. But I read one of the novellas and wasn't for me. The main character gave me big, massive Rachel Berry vibes, and it was not a vibe. But this one, I loved. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. And I cannot wait to finally finish The Love Hypothesis, because I have had that book on my TBR cart for so long, and I've actually read like maybe about 100 pages of that book already, and then I just put it down and never picked it back up. So now I feel so invigorated, and I want to pick it up immediately, because I just know I'm gonna love it. I just know I'm gonna love it, and it's gonna be great. And I know that I already was loving it when I was reading it, but then I put it down and I don't remember why. So we're definitely gonna pick it back up, and I'm going to finish it hopefully sometime this summer. The very last book that I read was Every Summer After by Carly Fortune, and I ended up giving this book a 3 out of 5 stars. So I went into this book without any expectations, without any prior preconceived notions. I did not read any reviews, I didn't watch any videos. I kept fully away from this book as much as possible, because I knew I wanted to read it, and I knew it was super popular, and I did not want to be influenced either way when I ended up reading this book. And so I finally read it, and I gave it, obviously, like I said, 3 out of 5 stars. But basically this book is about this young woman, and we meet her when she's about 13 years old, and her parents end up renting or buying this lake house, beach house, whatever, and take her there during the summer because she has been massively bullied the year before, and they feel like she kind of just needs a break. And she ends up meeting the family next door who has 2 sons, and she ends up befriending the 13-year-old younger brother, and they become besties and have this really beautiful friendship, and that ends up over the years blooming into this romance. And I loved the structure of this book. I loved the way that we kept going back and forth between the timelines, and I felt like the creation of this friendship and the evolution of it was just so perfectly executed. And really, I bought it. I believed in it fully. I think that this book kind of lost its steam maybe a little over halfway through the book, because I felt like towards the end I just stopped caring about them for some reason. And it's funny because I actually did start to feel more of a connection between the main character and the older brother. I don't know why. I started to ship them a little bit. I did. And I just stopped really caring about the younger brother because he was so closed off and he did not want to talk about anything, and he could not be honest, and he could not be forthcoming with her, and that really, really bothered me. That really bothered me.
Really bothered me.
I wanted to believe in them. I wanted to love them together, but by the end of the book, I just did not care anymore, and I think that's what really led me to going with a 3 out of 5 stars for this rating, because I think initially it would have been a 4 out of 5 stars. Like, it might not have been a 5 out of 5. I don't think it was the strongest written book in the world, and some of the smuttier scenes in this book were not very well written at all. So I was like, it's not going to be a 5 out of 5, but it could be a 4 out of 5. It has that potential. But then unfortunately, I just stopped believing in the romance by the end of the book, and that's what lowered the rating. I do know a lot of my mutuals on Goodreads did not like this book. I don't know why. I still have not read their reviews, but a lot of them gave it 1 or 2 stars. So I feel like, you know, even though I gave it 3, I feel a little bit on the outside. But I did think that it was such a cute book until like the 60-70% mark. It was so cute. So I don't know what really happened with the book. I am really excited to read the second one, or I guess not really the second book in the series, but it's the second book from this author, and that's Meet Me at the Lake, which I think I'm gonna like, hopefully. I mean, that one I actually have heard a lot of opinions on and a lot of people did not like it, so I don't know what to think. I don't know. I hope I'm gonna like it. It looks like a cute book, but I guess time will tell whenever I end up picking that one up. So yeah, those are all of my thoughts on these 6 books that I read in June. And let me know if you've read any of these books as well. Let me know what you thought of them, because I am dying to know, especially if you read Every Summer After. Let me know what you thought of that book, because I want to see if our opinions are at all the same. Also, let me know what books you're reading in July, because I have not finished a book yet in July. I am really close though. I have like 1 hour left of an audiobook that I'm currently reading, so hopefully we will get that done soon. And if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Also, go ahead and follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Goodreads, Storygraph, TikTok. All the links will be down below, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye!
Ooh, I thought it'd be me and you. Oh.